the tendons here, and then I'll cover one right on the back of the Achilles here, just to protect those, and then I can lay tape down. Some of you will want to apply Pro Wrap if you're not shaved. It's a really inferior tape job, so we learn really good habits here. And to apply this, it's just a single layer of this under wrap. It's just foam. It's not going to cut in or anything. And the way you would do that is you could stick it with Tuscan, which is a sticky spray, and you just spray it about 6 inches from yourself, just a tiny bit. You don't need a lot. You don't want to breathe it in. And then you can put this and it will stick to it. But it does come loose as soon as your body starts to heat up, so it's not very good. And you just go around it like that all the way down. I'm not going to use it. I'm just demonstrating that for you. Okay, so when I start my tape job, I want to make sure my athlete's foot is always at 90 degrees. And I want to make sure I know that it's this. In this case, it's an inversion sprain in this case. But I would find out ahead of time because I need to change some of my structures so that so it would treat for eversion if it were. I'm going to start with 2 base strips, and I'm going to put my base strips at the top, and I go right below the muscle belly. So I'm going to angle here because you have to imagine your ankle is shaped like a cone, not a sphere, like a can of soup. It's more like a ice cream cone. So if I change the angle of my tape, then I'm going to be able to conform to the shape of the leg. And every strip I lay down is functional. It all has a purpose. I don't put any arbitrary strips down. And I want to just make sure that I'm always going medial to lateral. So I overlap by half because I'm avoiding the shadows and the windows. And I make sure it's nice and smooth. And then I rip it. And then I'm going to put one at the bottom. I don't start and stop on heel and lace pads because they'd move too much. So I'm going to put this one, trying to miss that stylus process. But I'm putting a base strip here because I'm going to anchor the horseshoes onto it. Okay? So I've got my prep now. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-rip is the word I was looking for, 3 stirrups. Now these stirrups are going to go from base strip to base strip. That's the purpose of the base strips. So I'm going to make sure that I don't take them too long or too short. And I'm going to make 3 of those because I'm going to make them all the same. And if I don't pre-rip them, then they may not all be the same, at least when you're learning to do it. It's a good habit. Now, the thing about the horseshoe is this is the one that the stirrup, sorry, is the one that I manipulate for inversion, eversion. So the first one is going to go straight up the middle of the maleolus. And the idea of this is if it's an inversion sprain, I can pull it up higher or harder on the lateral side. If it's an eversion sprain, I'm going to pull it up evenly on both sides. Because if I pull it too hard up on the middle side, it will preload it into inversion, right? Because it's easier to invert. So eversion is even, inversion is harder on the lateral side. Okay? That's a good test question, by the way. Okay, ready? So I see how much control I have, though, based on my manipulation, and I lay that down. Now I'm going to lock it down with a horseshoe pad. So it should be almost like right up the middle of the maleolus. And sometimes somebody, in certain anatomy, will have a maleoli that's farther forward here, like this. Typically, they're not as rotated as much. Okay, so then I'm going to go horseshoe. The horseshoe goes from base strip to base strip. This is a perpendicular strip. And what I do is I make sure it's right at the ankle, and then I just let it fall onto that base strip, and then I know it's right. And then tear it off. And then I can put this strip on. This one is now going to go 90 degrees for me, thanks. This one is going to go slightly forward. I'm going to lock it in with a horseshoe. I'm going slightly higher on the maleolus, so I move up a little bit each time. And then I'm going to go slightly back. Now you guys are going to have 12 minutes to do a tape job. I think I've done my record is 12 ankles in 15 minutes, so I'm pretty sure you guys can do one in 12. So this one goes slightly back, okay? But again, I can manipulate it the way that I want to, nice and tight. And I'm going to overlap again a little bit. So I'm kind of using the maleolus as my guide. I go up a third, a third, a third, kind of. Yeah, that's okay. Just tack it back on. And I go right back to that base strip again. That's kind of the base of it. Now, if you want, just make sure you tack it all down. Make sure you have nice even tension in it, and then you'll get rid of those wrinkles. So now I'm going to go back over the top of my base strip, and I'm going to go all the way down. It's actually harder to tape slow than it is to go fast. So you see how I'm just overlapping. Now this is important because as you go down, you're going to have to change the direction of the tape a little bit to conform to that ice cream cone.
What do you mean by direction?
So I'm coming down like this. I'm going to start changing the direction of my tape so it goes like that. So here I go in here. If I left it like this, that would be a window, and it just left like that as a shadow. So I want to make sure now I change that angle, and that will let me get into all those little areas. And I go right back to the base of the malleoli. Make sure it's all nice in here. And then I'm going to go back on top of these strips. So again, I'm covering up everything here.
So that's covering the horseshoe strips.
Now I'm covering the ends of the horseshoe, and I'm also covering this window or in here. Now, the idea here is you're not going to be able to meet these ones on top. So all of these we're able to crisscross on top. So what I'm actually making is a basket underneath. It makes a woven basket similar to our tensoring. And what I'm not going to be able to meet these on top because of the ankle sort of mortise here. So what I'm going to do is leave these ones open, and it doesn't matter so much because I'm going to lock it all down with the figure 8. Okay, so I might do 4 strips going back this way, of which 2 may be open. Okay, so 2 can crisscross, and when I get to here, I'm going to have to leave them open. So that's kind of the basis of it. It makes kind of a nice little skeleton of a tape job. The final thing now is figure 8 and heel locks, and you guys know this from last class. So the idea here is, if it's a very tiny foot, like a lady's foot is sometimes harder to tape because it's closer angles, you may want to go a very sharp angle like this. And if it's a large foot, you might want to have like an angle that's more at like 45 degrees. Okay, so I always find that sometimes to start your angle it might take a few minutes as a new taper, and it's going to be the answer to you being able to do this or not, is getting that right angle. So I go into my figure 8, and look at the tension in my hand. I don't want to lose that tension and direct the tape. You let the tape go where it wants to, and then it will work for you. So I go right into my figure 8, cross the top of the foot. I'm keeping the tension even and smooth. Up the lateral lock, keeping the tension even and smooth. Cross the top of the foot. Up the medial side, keep the tension nice and smooth, no wrinkles. And I'm going to end now. No, I just wrinkled it. It's all the pressure of all the filming, right?
Paparazzi.
I'm just kidding. Paparazzi. You know, I mean, that's the thing, right? People who are getting like this kind of pressure, right? They really have to perform. It makes you appreciate people that have to perform under that. That's why they get paid all the big bucks, though, right? Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to make sure, and again, this is good because I want to show you how I would correct for this. It's when I stop to talk that it doesn't work for me. I did it faster. So I come over the top of the foot. If I'm too high on the maleolus, it's not going to work. If I'm too low, it's not going to work. So I have to make sure that I come right over the top of the maleolus like this and straight up the back of the heel, and then I'm going to end on the medial lock, just like that. Okay, and I'll show that to you one more time a little bit quicker because that was clunky.
You only would do it once, though.
You could do it once or twice. What I do is get the athlete to test it out and see how they liked it, and they say it's pretty good. I'd like maybe a little bit more. So then I go right into my figure 8 and do it all over again. So I go figure 8. There you go.
Okay, peanuts.
Now, when you get really good at it, you can do it with your eyes closed. All right. So, and then you can see though, right? If you haven't got even tension throughout, the second one will make it be a bit tight. But that's all you have to do is base strip, 3 stirrups, interlock them with horseshoes, close it down, close it back, figure 8.
So
You can leave it.
there's no
Yeah.